Well, let's head to the National Assembly now, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will be answering oral questions. Now, the leaders of the biggest opposition parties in the National Assembly have asked questions relating to Eskom's rolling blackouts. DA leader John Steenhuisen wants Ramaphosa to explain how government can set an example for business and households by paying for electricity. EFF chief Julius Malema wants to know if a change of leadership at Eskom has been considered. For more on this, let's speak to our SABC News reporter, Bulelani Phillip. Bulelani, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. What's expected to come out of this Q&A session?
Good morning to you, Naledi, and to the viewers at home. I think you've correctly pointed out some of the major issues in your intro. The focus today, the first two questions are going to be relating primarily on load shedding and how the government and the president alike is going to act in terms of trying to actually minimize them, if not end them anytime soon. Of course, the DA leader will be first up, asking, as it said, around the questions of how will government depart.
Bulelani, are you there?
I'm still here, Naledi.
Yes, go ahead. Please, continue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm also in load shedding, and I'm explaining something about load shedding.
The realities of South Africa, Bulelani. Go ahead and tell us what we're expecting.
All right, cool. So I'm saying that, DA leader John Steenhuisen is going to be asking the president around how he's going to ensure that government departments pay their electricity bills to Eskom so that Eskom can be able to expedite the critical maintenance projects so that we can come closer to ending load shedding. On the other hand, the EFF leader, Mr. Julius Malema, will be, as you said, asking around the leadership changes. Again, I think they will expect that they will pose more questions whether the Eskom CEO, Mr. Andre de Ruyter, is actually a fit person for that role. And also the issues around whether the current board as it exists, which is a new board as well, is actually being seen as the people with the right skills and competencies to actually take us out of this load shedding quagmire.
Yeah, I think there's obviously going to be a lot of interest in whether or not the president is able to address some of the economic challenges faced by the country, considering the high cost of living at this point. Bulelani.
Well, I think this is the issue that is being raised as a part of the nuances of the consequences of load shedding, because they affect all sectors of the economy as well as some of the social services that government renders. And it's quite critical that the president is held accountable in terms of how they intend to, for example, assist areas like health where there are hospitals, and there have been reports of people, actually some losing their lives because of this current load shedding, as well as now we talk about education. Schools, of course, there's been a commitment that the exams won't be affected, but how the education sector is affected. But as well the issue of the economic side, that businesses, particularly small enterprises, actually suffering with some of them closing down. So this is one of the reasons why this issue of load shedding is being placed quite, as a priority when it comes to this oral question and answer session.
I think a big issue obviously is going to be whether or not these Q&A sessions actually have an impact. I mean, what do we know about how Parliament has in any way been effective in holding the executive accountable?
Well, it's one thing to be asking the president questions, which is a requirement of his regular appearance in the National Assembly, as well as the NCOP, where he can be held accountable and be asked these questions. But of course, to come to your question, whether they have any desired outcomes, it's something perhaps maybe that I will leave to the viewers, because you can't really measure whether they are going to be actionable or not. Now, if we take, for example, this issue of load shedding, the president, even during the time when he was the deputy president, he had made several commitments that load shedding would be ended within a year and a half at a time, and years later we're still in the same problem. So if we take that as an example, some of these questions don't really lead to what the promises are made when it comes to the oral question.
Well, the clock certainly is ticking for the president of the African National Congress as we get closer to the ANC elective conference just next month. And I think his posture, obviously going into this conference, certainly going to be something that is looked at quite closely.
Well, I mean, he's facing, of course, these two major challenges as part of his political career, which will probably be some of the factors that may be deciding whether he will come back as the ANC president or not. Because one of the elephants in the room, or the biggest political challenge that he has at the moment, is that outstanding issue of investigations into the burglary at his Palapala home. Of course, he's relied on the issues around the legalities and the investigations that are ongoing, and has been very shortcoming when it comes to giving a simple explanation in terms of how he knew about this burglary as well as the actions that is taken. Now, the second issue again is this one, that is the national crisis of load shedding, and those issues, perhaps maybe his political detractors may use those as the reasons why they feel that he's not competent